Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scotty Hagness. This is Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scott, how goes it, my man?
Hey, it's going pretty good.
Awesome.
Working hard here.
Working hard. Yeah, you're in crunch time now for your challenge, right? You're in the finals of a BMX video submission challenge. Is that correct?
Yep, correct. Yep.
And then
Deadline is day after tomorrow. Or tomorrow.
Wow, deadline's tomorrow. And how long does this clip have to be?
This one is a single clip. It's kind of like a best trick round, and with a maximum of 25 seconds. So can't mess around too long. Yeah, it's been in a 2 months time frame to get it done, and now down at the end. And I kind of squandered the first 5 weeks working on what I really wanted, but I realized, while possible, I wasn't going to. There's no way I was learning it in the 2 month time frame.
Yep.
So I had to abandon that, go a different direction. Which ended up taking some forks in the road and not being what I originally thought. That's, creating new things, which is all about. You never know where it's going to go. And it often doesn't go where you think it is when you start. But anyway, I got something there, but I have a kind of a strained tendon in my dominant foot that I use for a lot of positions, and it was what's starting this thing. I got it on tape. I got a feel on tape, but I was definitely down to the point as I can't be doing this anymore. I'm going to do some damage and then set myself back for a while. So I had that and was done last week. And then there's still plenty of things to do can be done that don't bother my foot.
Yep.
And so a different idea I had started coming together just almost by accident. And I realized I like that a lot better if I can get it, I think. And so now this last week here has been a hard grind. I've been writing a little bit at 5 a.m. every day, in the afternoons, about 3 sessions a day. And now I'm down to it, filming. So it's interesting. I've entered lots of different types of contests, and they all are very different. This one is very different, of course, because it's very sustained. You can, the first part doesn't seem that intense, but it's quite a mental game as you get close. Am I going to successfully do this? There's a rain, I had plenty of time today, but then a rain shower came up and shut me down. There's other variables, or, the parking lot might have an event in it that I was not expecting,
Yep.
So you can't even, I could have a mechanical problem with my bike I have to deal with, so you can't even necessarily count on.
Yep.
So anyway, fun, but I'll be super glad here when it's over.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so you mentioned that you did some writing at 5 a.m. What kind of structure are you trying to structure your writing in particular ways so that you're kind of like maybe preparing for you to go for the trick, or maybe skill work? Or is there something particular way that you're trying to integrate, like, I guess, proper energy system, or, training practices in there?
Yeah,
not necessarily
energy
system, but like
system
structure.
Is, it's all definitely very low aerobic. But yeah, so on these mornings that I come in early to the gym, there's one portion of the trick having the rubber padded floor, because I end up on it fairly often. Is kind of helpful.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing. I've been working on figuring out how to do this particular type thing, which it's not terribly difficult, but it's just something I've never seen anybody approach anything like this.
Yep.
And so I can do that in here, but I also do it at home. I have a small area in the back porch. I'm able to do some things. And so I work on other pieces then during the day, and when I have the bigger space where I need a little more speed. So I was kind of working on the parts separately, and then I've done all the parts. In fact, I've done all the parts quite a number of times. So I know I can do it. There's always that point. Okay, once you've successfully completed all the parts, and you can almost do the math at that point too. Like, how many tries roughly does it take me to get through this part? And then how many tries roughly does it take me to get through this part? You can kind of get a worst case scenario. Now, with that said, there's definitely caveats at the end. If you are in 2/10 sympathetic of a place, even though, let's say you can do the final part 1 out of 10 tries, it goes, your likelihood of getting it goes way down. If you're too tensed up, you kind of get in your own way.
Yep.
On the other hand, if you can be in a more relaxed state and you've gotten all the way to, and you only have the last piece to do, if you're in the right place, your likelihood of doing it goes up, because you will make every effort to get it, as opposed to, you'll put maximum effort. And a lot of it really is just believing you can do it, or even if there's a mindset I'll get into sometimes where it's like, this is going to happen. I'm not doing this, 50 more tries to get back here again. It's happening right now. And that's usually when the magic happens. But it goes both ways for me. I'm definitely much more now able to do the latter. When I would film, like in the 90s, when I was producing the big DVDs and things, I would so often have like the simple finishing to a combination of stuff, and I'd blow it because I'd be like, oh man, I got through all this stuff. I can't blow it now. And what happens? You blow it.
Yeah, right. So, Scott, are you doing anything in particular outside of your training to put you into those, states of success, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of physical bandwidth to do much, so I have to go into other avenues. So I do breathing, and I think now that having explored this more and more, various cadence and a little bit of apnea as recovery work, and to keep my parasympathetic tone up to recover. That I've done daily and numerous times, and I do a little bit of breath work during, or even while I rest sometimes, to make sure I'm not getting too, wired up. But of course, you also have to be ready. It's definitely a very sympathetic activity as well. Yep. So I can create a balance. That comes pretty naturally. Though, depending on, I will sometimes bring a 10-pound medicine ball to the lot, and I'll huck it for height, like 3 sets of 3, as a way to kind of activate myself.
Yeah.
Because I have plenty of room to do that.
Yep.
It's a handy one. I haven't, this is more of a finesse thing, so I'm not needing to do that. Breathing is kind of the key in this particular one. And then in the gym or at home, joint mobility, keep the joints working, address anything with soft tissue as needed. And really that's about it. Make sure you eat enough. As aerobic work, I'm probably like doing triathlon training right now. The volume of time my heart rate is up. So eating a lot.
Really?
Oh, and I've continued to lose weight. I'm down to like 163 or 164 in spite of that. Yeah.
So the body's really adapting to the amount of load that you're putting on there, right?
It really is. Yeah. Yeah.
Which kind of shows, people who are like, oh, I want to do tons of aerobic training and gain weight. It's like, well, your body doesn't really want to do that right now.
No. Yeah. I mean, when I first started lifting weights was when I was riding a ton back in the 90s. And I definitely got stronger and I definitely became more defined. But as far as actually putting on weight, man, was it hard. Because I was still riding a minimum of hour and a half, but probably averaging more 2.5 would probably be more realistic average a day on the bike. That doesn't work that way. On the good side, just even a small amount of maintenance strength training, I have not lost any strength. In fact, I'd say my lift numbers have generally trended more upward. So that's always nice.
Yeah. So in terms of your strength training right now, you're just basically trying to, are you doing more kind of like continuing to stimulate the CNS type stuff, that kind of thing?
Yep. Yeah, this week, because I'm pushing so hard, I'm just watching my morning grip scores.
Oh, okay.
And if they were to start tailing down, I would probably do some jumps or just some concentric only deadlifts. I've been training snatch grip deadlifts regularly, so it's not going to make me sore or be an unusual stressor.
Yep.
But this week, so far, as of this morning, it still looks good, so I haven't really messed with it outside of just doing some light sets midweek. Again, just try to stimulate a little anabolism a couple times a week.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually looking at an article from Joel Jameson for like an 8 weeks out type thing. And he talks about strength training during, these types of, not too far off from what you're doing other than the fact that you're not going nearly as high intensity, but you are doing a fair amount of high CNS, high aerobic or abundant aerobic work. But doing, those 1 to 3 heavy training sessions so we can kind of stay anabolic, but also kind of keep stimulating the nervous system a little bit and not go completely on that side of the spectrum allows us to maintain the overall training quality and volume over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote a little piece on this a little while ago, how strength training can actually be your recovery work in a certain setting, such as this one, or really in more endurance-based sport, high skill-based sport. Just doing enough work to stimulate some anabolic hormones,
Yep.
better recovery, better connective tissue integrity, etc. Um, and so it's more about that effect than necessarily the effect of just muscle strength that you're going after.
Other than the grip testing, have you been continuing to do your HRV scores as well, Scotty?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I do those.
And how have those looked, and how have those correlated to the quality of your training? Are there any correlation?
I don't get when I get real mental about tricks like this, that I do see that. I don't know if it's the volume of the work, or I think the harder you try, the deeper reserve in the CNS you must make. You know, I have not seen that yet this time, though. This morning now, a number of days of this, it was unusually high. So I'm in but looking at a lot of times, people will look just at the standard score, which is usually the root mean squared of the standard deviation. That's the one that almost all the apps mainly go on. But there's some others where you can kind of see how much activation is available in your autonomic nervous system. So the SDNN is one, and I looked at that, it was quite high this morning. So it showed I was ready to take on the challenge, basically. So we'll see how tomorrow looks after today, and then beyond that. But generally, the nice thing is about having a high training age, high aerobic function, etc. Whatever I do, I'm pretty much back to normal within just 1 to 2 days after. So.
And Scott, you said that you are eating more during this time. Any type of supplementation that you're keeping up with to maintain good mental stimulation and I guess energy reserve?
I mean, there's probably is supplements I could have dug into. It's one thing I just haven't really had the time to delve into too much. I mean, outside of like doing a recovery shake between sessions and then getting solid food. I definitely do that as one way to, if nothing else, for calories. But I do find the one problem I can get into is if I'm underfed, particularly on the end of the week when I'm tired, I can kind of, I don't know if it's a little bit of low blood glucose or to the brain maybe, but you get to this point where suddenly even the easiest things just don't even seem smart to do. It's so making sure you're not underfed. I actually happened to be last Friday. I typically keep snacks and things with me so that I can kind of combat that a little bit, but it can really be put the kibosh on things. Supplement-wise, I mean, I do a fair amount of collagen. Collagen powder.
Is that more for joint, or is that more for overall CNS type stuff? I
mean, it has some benefits in a number of areas. Kind of a high glycine based amino acids in it. Part of it is joints. There's a lot of joint stress. Part of it is it's just a good anti-inflammatory protein source. And I don't eat particularly high protein anymore, so I use that, and as some of it. Outside of that, not a whole lot. A little magnesium, but
I was going to say, maybe some
topical.
A topical. So you're spraying it on what, neck and
spray
feet?
my homemade. I typically do calves, thighs, forearms, chest. Sometimes anywhere the skin is pretty, or there's not a lot of fat tissue.
So it just gets good.
I haven't done it on my neck a whole lot, just because salty stuff and shaving. My beard grows ideally I almost have to shave twice a day.
Like on the back of the neck is probably just
miserable. I have made that mistake in the past when I first started making and using my own just spray magnesium oil.
And how do you do that, Scott?
You can make this stuff dirt cheap. You buy the magnesium. I think it's magnesium chloride flakes. You can get it for very nominal amount of money. Order it. And then it's I believe a 1 to 2 ratio. It's very simple, like 2 cups of water, 1 cup of magnesium, throw it in a pot, heat it up until magnesium dissolves. It might be 1 to 1 actually. And then I just put it in a large bottle container, and then buy some little spray bottles that you can buy pretty much anywhere, and then I fill those up and make sure I just have them really handy way, and it bypasses.
So you're basically just dissolving magnesium flakes in water and then just putting it in a bottle?
That's all it is. It's yeah,
Wow.
magnesium oil is not oil at all. It's very oily looking and feeling, but it's just
Yeah.
a super saturated um, magnesium solution. And you can buy them. I've made magnesium cream, which that was a bit more of a pain. I think it was cocoa butter
Ah.
and something else, and you put it in a blender, and might have been olive oil or some sort of oil anyway, and then you mix the magnesium,
Mm-hmm.
this magnesium solution that you've made in with it, and then that doesn't have that kind of itchy. Because some people don't like the sensation of the magnesium can itch a little bit.
Yep.
Outside of when I very first put it on, I don't really get that, but a lot of people do. So the making the cream out of it, you can kind of bypass that. It doesn't have the same effect. Plus, it's kind of skin moisturizing, I guess.
Yeah. So it's basically like a very easy way to almost get a daily Epsom salt bath, so to speak.
Yeah, yep, that's the idea.
Nice. And you probably
Yeah,
can.
and
And you go ahead.
I was just going to say that magnesium levels are so difficult to replete,
Uh huh.
even if you're buying the very expensive, chelated forms. This way, it seems to be much better. Kind of bypass that, get it into the skin.
Yeah. Have you read anything about the absorption and the quality of absorption via skin, Scott, versus via gut and then into the blood?
I mean, I've seen numerous people, doctors, practitioners, talking about the absorption is quite good, and
Yeah.
usually that's the one thing that they see that will restore magnesium levels if it's done
Mm.
consistently for long enough.
Yep.
Um, as far as anything outside of that, I don't know. I mean, I know there's different types, different forms are supposed to go to different tissues,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if that changes, and when we don't have to deal with the gut necessarily. Um, so yeah, I'm not too sure on that.
Yep. I'm looking at some like a do-it-yourself kind of wellness kind of site right now, looking at a fact about this. But yeah, they say using magnesium chloride, simple as just boiling it, putting it in a spray bottle, and using about 15 to 20 sprays a day, and getting a very similar effect to some Epsom salt baths. But obviously, you have to
Mm-hmm.
use the magnesium chloride. You can't use something like a magnesium citrate like you would find in a natural calm or something like that, because it's not going to be the same thing.
Right, this is correct. Yep.
Very cool. So yeah, actually, this is a good dovetail into something that I did today, and I went out. In the past, we've talked about Natural Calm as a magnesium supplement and something to aid in sleep and restfulness. But like you said, Scott, there is one of the biggest things that depletes, especially in higher intensity training sessions, is your magnesium levels. So, Scott, what are some of the roles that magnesium do within your, let's say, if you're doing energy system type training?
Well, I mean, the oft quoted number is that it's involved in 300 plus bodily functions,
That's
and
a
since that's
lot.
an old number, I'm going to guess that it's actually higher than that
Yep.
nowadays. And I don't know hardly any of those specifically, but there's many factors, and some common ones that it's involved in your insulin sensitivity, for
Mm-hmm.
example. It's involved in your vitamin D status, which then plays into your trainability. Uh, Better vitamin D status, generally better trainability, for example. Uh, has to do with the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. You'll have a very difficult time being parasympathetic if you're low in magnesium.
Yep.
As far as contractions of the heart, and then obviously then that plays straight into your conditioning. Um,
Yep.
yeah, so many.
Yeah, and obviously it aside from all those other effects as well, I think it's a like a cofactor in ATP production as well.
Oh, yep.
So
Yeah,
again, like maybe we're looking at obviously energy system production, that kind of stuff. And I mean,
yeah.
like
So
you
now
said,
we're
there's
looking at
300 different
ATP.
things that
Yeah,
potentially could do with the body, right? And when
right.
those,
And then not only the things that they do directly, but how many things downstream, right?
yes, yeah, it's all over now in terms of the importance of magnesium. But getting it into your system and getting it absorbed into your system is one of the more difficult things that people could do because, most people's guts are smashed, so they're not getting absorption as is. So,
Right.
any magnesium you might take, it might give you gut upset. It might just go straight through you. So it's like,
Yeah.
what is it actually really? Are you getting the benefits of that as you're doing? Either consuming it through food or consuming it through supplements. But I thought it was interesting. I went with the Natural Calm, but they're doing Natural Calm is now doing some like specific types of mixtures for particular like
Oh.
athletes and uses, and they have a natural calm for calmful gut, and they're doing a magnesium glutamine and enzyme with some probiotic in it as well. And before I even picked it up, I'm like, Natural Calm for Guts. I'm like, I guarantee this is magnesium and glutamine. And sure enough, I'm like, oh, wow, magnesium and glutamine. So they're adding 50 milligrams of glutamine to their regular, 500 milligrams of glutamine to their regular Natural Calm product, which is magnesium citrate and magnesium carbonate. And then they're throwing some enzymes in it, some amylase and all those other things that will, for protein digestion and that kind of stuff. And then there's some probiotic in it. So I'm going to give this a whirl. I'm going to try it after my workouts, just because I think the demand for magnesium is a little higher during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got some blood work taken last week. I usually do it every 3 months. And this time around, it'll be interesting to see that I did an intracellular vitamin and mineral test.
Ah.
And the thought
Excellent.
behind that, instead of in serum, like just doing it in the blood,
Yeah.
is that you're not really getting. So you might be, taking in, let's say 1,000 milligrams of magnesium a day, but like, what is actually getting through to your cells? Like, what's the permeability? What are you
Yeah.
actually doing?
Yeah.
And I think it's going to give again, like, nothing is going to give you the entire picture. We're in a dark room
Yeah.
right now. And all of a sudden we shine a light on here and we shine a light on here and we shine a light on here. And we're getting little snippets of what this total room might look like. But I think this is a pretty cool way of seeing what's going on. It's a little pricey, the more pricey this blood work. I think the entire thing with my hormone panel and everything, I think it's like $400, maybe less, a little less than
Was
400.
it is this a red blood cell or more of a, or which test is it?
It was done via a regular blood draw.
Uh-huh. So
So
probably a red blood cell, which is,
yes. So I
yeah,
will
it's good
see.
stuff. Yeah.
They're going to give me the whole rundown when I get there on Tuesday, but it's going to be very interesting to see what's going on. And I had been sitting down with one of the practitioners who's a female, and she just had a baby like a year ago, and it was interesting to see hers and what she's deficient in and that kind of stuff because, we look at it and we're like, all right, on paper, this is what we think is going on. And when you actually see it, you're like, oh, wow. And then obviously things start making sense and in retrospect, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
then from there, you can kind of make some inferences as to what's really going on and what is actually happening. So like, say you are deficient in magnesium and zinc and you've been eating tons of that and you've been doing all that stuff. It's like, okay, what's the quality of the gut here then? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe the reason we're in this deficient state is, okay, your gut is smashed. All right, now maybe we do a detox / glutamine protocol and get you back to a better absorption state. And while doing that, we can supplement through IV, getting you those vitamins and minerals, whatever might be
Yeah.
deficient in, as along with it, so that you can not only feel better, but we're also treating the underlying cause of why you're actually deficient in these things, which is,
Yeah.
I think, a much maybe more complete way of going about this.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely kind of a big believer in IV to kickstart things, especially, if you identify some long-term problems with absorption. Um, that does seem to be a real common problem with high intensity training, and probably any of us that have been on any sort of a restrictive diet at some point
Yes.
can be, unfortunately, a bit of an absorption and, kind of pattern of stress that's depleted or ran our levels of things rather low. and kind of getting that kick started, as opposed to taking forever to try to bring it up just through the gut, which may be rather ineffective. I'm sure we've touched on this a handful of times in the past, but I've seen these various tests with a lot of people over the years, and for how hard everyone works and puts time into their diet and even spends a ton of money on supplements, generally levels are really low of a lot of key things, as almost across the board. And that's like something going on there. So, yeah, getting it identified and fixed.
Yep. So I'm interested to see what that will look like. This next week and next week we'll kind of carry on from where we started here. And,
awesome. You'll have your results by then.
And have my results, and then see what the intervention is going to be for that. But they do IVs like once a month just to kind of jumpstart people and that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So again, we'll see. But I'm doing this in a stepwise fashion and letting things run their course, which is important. So I'm not trying to ride too many horses at once, just to kind of seeing things through and remove the kind of attachment to it, because that can be a confounding factor of just believing or not believing in something is going to work.
Yeah,
totally. That whole placebo effect and where your mindset and mind state is at currently. So,
yeah, cool.
Very cool. So we'll have an update for next week's, but you got anything else for today, Scotty?
No, looks like it's dried off and about to go out for round 2 of filming round 3 for the day. It looks like.
Scotty, you're gonna get this one. I'm telling you.
I'll get it between today and tomorrow.
All right, great, man.
I will.
Well, I'm Sean LaFlock. You can get me at Sean@CrossFitDelray.com.
I'm Scott Hagnes. You can get me at Scott@CrossFitPortland.com.
All right, Scotty. I'll talk to you next week, man.
Yeah, have a great Labor Day.
Good luck, brother. You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.